Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to the Kingdom Podcast again. I've got JJ Carrell with me. He was 24 years in the Border Patrol. He's got a new documentary coming out called Treason. One's doing with trafficking, and the other documentary he's got coming out later on is doing with how our country's been sold out. So I want to just jump into this with JJ today. Is it okay if I call you JJ?
Yes, please. Thank
All
you.
right. And I'm just Greg. So,
All right.
JJ, talk to us a little bit about what's going on at our border and the wool that's trying to be pulled over our eyes. I think a lot of my audience is probably pretty well ticked off about it, but help us understand the gravity of what's taking place at the nation's border. And brother, you can run any direction with this as deep as you want to run. There's no limits on this podcast.
Okay, let me start with saying that because the left loves to, and the rhinos love to conflate legal and illegal immigration. I'm talking about illegal immigration.
Okay.
Legal residents are some of the greatest patriots we have. I have to say that out front. And I also have to start with letting your audience know my perspective. 24 years in the United States Border Patrol. I spent a year writing a book that was a bestseller on Amazon. In the last 4 months, I've been traveling across America, filming a documentary that's now turned into 2 documentaries. So I say this with complete confidence. The United States federal government is the enemy of the people. And no one will ever be able to change my mind on that. I don't care. This is not a Democrat Republican, even though I will say openly the Democrats are evil. Evil.
Yep.
But the Republicans are complicit because they are impotent, weak, and they just go along in order to enrich themselves and continue to gain power. That being said, I want your audience to understand that prior to Joe Biden taking office, that they had meetings at the highest levels of government to make a determination on how they were going to fundamentally transform the United States of America. And they decided on the vehicle of illegal immigration. Was I there in those meetings? Did I talk to people that were there? No. But I was on the border being a deputy patrol agent in charge. My last year in the Border Patrol was Joe Biden's first year. So I saw all those policies because the day one he took office, the first day, he signed 94 executive orders obliterating every immigration policy that Donald Trump had in place that gave Biden the nation's strongest and most secure border in our history. I watched it all crumble right in front of me, all of it. And I want your audience to understand, from the day Joe Biden took office to present day, every single day, between 5,000 and 20,000 illegal aliens have crossed the border and then been released at a 95 to 97% rate. It is against the law to release illegal aliens into America. Everything that is happening on the border now is against the law and unconstitutional. Let me explain to you what has happened by the end of his first term. By the end of his first term, Joe Biden will have arrested 12 million illegal aliens and released almost all of them. Inside those 12 million will be 1 million, over 1 million Venezuelans, almost 1 million Haitians, 210,000 Chinese nationals, which the majority are single adult military-age men that have already been identified as PLA soldiers, 250,000 Russians, 250,000 special interest aliens. Those are terrorists. And they have brought in over 500,000 unaccompanied alien children from ages of birth to 17 years old, and they have lost them all, meaning they have no idea where these children are, and I know where they are. They're being sex trafficked. I know that for a fact, and we can talk about that later. But you are looking at treason. They are treasonous bastards running our government. We have a tyrannical government. We do no longer have a republic. The great constitutionalist Mark Levin quotes it and says it perfectly. We live in a post-constitutional republic, and that is the truth. Because my question to everyone that I ask, name me one institution in America that you trust. Name one. Is it your religious leaders? Is it your politicians, your government, your CIA, your intel agencies, law enforcement, state, local, and federal? Is it your education? Is it your medical system? Name one, just one, that you respect and trust, and you can't. You can't, because we have been lied to our whole entire lives, and now it's all coming to fruition. But I want your audience to also understand there are 2,000 miles on the southern border. 80% of the border is unmanned at any given time. Meaning 1,600, yes, sir. 1,600 miles of the 2,000-mile border, there's not a single Border Patrol agent because they're all been reassigned to processing and transportation duties. This has never been done. We have a 100-year anniversary this past May. Never, nothing that we did for 96 and a half years did we do like we do these last 3.5 under Joe Biden. He's a traitor. You want to just say it as it is. He's a pedophile. He's a sexual deviant, and he's a traitor. Mayorkas, who runs the Secretary of DHS, is a traitor. Kamala Harris, she is an imbecile. She has no ability. She slept her way to the top. Let's just be honest. I know it. I'm from California. I know all the stories. She slept her way to the top. But this isn't bad policy or being stupid. This is intentional. This is strategic, and it's purposeful to destroy the American way of life through illegal aliens. And lastly, to drive the nail home, there are 50 million illegal aliens inside our borders right now, and I'm being conservative. And these are numbers we can get into, and I can extrapolate and tell you exactly how they are. Meaning 1 in 6 residents in America is an illegal alien. Now, you tell me how we're going to fare with that.
That's all I think JJ will ploy to move troops into our country so that we don't have to look at the shores being invaded. We've already been invaded. The American patriot, I think, and the help of God, is going to be the key to saving our nation in the days ahead. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong. You probably have a lot of more insight than I do, but I think there's something coming, a Civil War type atmosphere that will actually be the nations invading us from within. I think there's some violence that's ahead. I don't want it. I'm praying against it. I hope it doesn't happen, but we have to prepare for it because I think it is. These things you're saying, JJ, are so sobering that I would say 90% of America has no clue about this.
No, they don't. They don't. And to maybe to be an apologist for the average American, I have to say, I know a lot of these things because I was in DHS. I know the nomenclature. I know the verbiage. I know what they're doing, and they're passing it off as legal, and it is illegal. And we can go through all of that. That's how they're doing it because of the ignorance of the American people. Now, I'm not giving America a pass on this because if you can't feel it, and you said it right, and I believe 100% what you're saying, if you can't feel spirits, if you will, evil spirits, and this fight, you can feel it of good versus evil. And what's happening, and I would love to hear your take on this, I see as the sides have been, everyone is drawing the line in the sands. The Christians that are awake are on one side, and we know we're going to war. The evil side, the side of the left that mutilates children, aborts babies after they pass through the vaginal canal, the transgender movement, and on and on and on. They have chosen sides. But there is a large segment of American citizens that are in the middle. They, for whatever reason, either they're grossly ignorant, willfully ignorant, or they just don't care. That group of people, they're going to be devoured. They're going to be devoured, and they have no idea. They think they're safe, and they're not.
No.
And to follow up on what you said, I'm a Christian. I wish I want to be a better theologian, if you will, have a better understanding and become an expert on the Bible. And I'm trying to get there. However, in my limited mental state of being a Christian as the lowest level, I would say, there is no way that the things that I've discovered in 24 years in the Border Patrol, writing my book, and especially these last 4 months that I have been sucked in to the child sex trafficking world, there is no way the God that I was raised with, not this impotent, soft, LGBTQ hippie God that we've been jammed down our throat. No, I'm talking about the God that is jealous, the God that is vengeful, the God that refuses to be mocked. That God, he is not going to sit silently by as we sexually mutilate and destroy 500,000 unaccompanied alien children into America that are lost, child sex trafficked, and the other 500,000 to 1 million children that have been lost over the last several years in America. And he's watching us destroy his children, and he's going to do nothing.
This is this is something that the church is so blinded by. They just think everything. Now, I'm speaking from what most people would term as a Protestant viewpoint. And there's a lot of different Protestant viewpoints out there. But most people think today that God's in control. And they paint that picture. And what they're doing, they're creating a view of God that is evil, that's mean, that wants children devoured, as you said. But myself, I am a theologian, and I understand that God's not in control. He's in charge. He's put us in control. If God was in control, you'd have to blame him for all this mess, all this hell that's going on in the earth. But what God did in Genesis chapter 3, he did it at the resurrection of Jesus. Jesus himself said, all authority, all power has been given me in heaven and earth. Now you go. He's put us in control of what's happening in the earth. And it is not God's fault of what we see, but God will not stand by. He's getting ready to take control. He's getting ready to pull control back into his hands whenever he returns. But right now we're dealing with demonic filled, demonic influenced people that have given themselves over to demonic entities that are still trying to carry out that age-old assignment that the devil has had in the earth, and that is stealing, killing, and destroying. There's got to be a waking up in the church to understand that this is our fault. This is what we are, what we have created and allowed to happen because we have been complacent. We've been lazy. We've been looking to escape this earth to get into a celestial place that we can live happily ever after. But what we don't understand is, theologically, if we do not steward what God's given us well, we get judged on the other side. And that judgment is not going to be very kind to those who have painted God as someone who's just, we're going to let it all work out in the future, or I don't have to give an account for that. There's judgment coming. In my opinion, JJ, there's a lot of things, a lot of people that are calling themselves Christians. There's a lot of churches that have his name over their buildings or their denominations that absolutely know nothing about him, and they do not belong to him because of the evil they've let come in and take over what they're doing. That's a small part of my take. I've actually written a book on it, but that's a small part of my take in how this evil is being able to sustain itself. It's because we have people that think they're Christians, excuse me, but they're not. And they're trying to put God in a spot he never intended himself to be identified with. Evil is evil, good is good. And I thank God that you're one of those that are out there that's exposing this thing, that's telling the story of how evil has penetrated a nation that's supposed to be surrendered to God. And yeah, it pisses me off. I apologize, but it really, really digs in my craw.
No, and you're right. And you and I talked a little bit this before we got started. I lay all of it at the feet of the American man.
Yep.
All of it. Because God built in us, especially in men, strictly men, not men that can have babies, men.
You're right.
Men, right? So men are built instinctively to take care and protect and provide for our women and our children.
Yeah.
We have allowed the secular world to denigrate us and tell us that we're not worthy and we don't need you. Yep. And then they've relegated us to this beta male status where we've allowed the abuse, the rape, the pillage and murder of our women and children. And we all sat by quietly allowing it to happen, talking about people's feelings. What motivates that man to rape that woman? We need to talk to him. No, instead of going over there and putting him out of his misery and evil, we don't. And we have beta males. And I refuse. I have a 12-year-old son. He's going to be a man.
Yes, sir.
Very, very soon. And I have a devout responsibility to make him a strong and Christian man as I possibly can. And I have to fight. I have to have conversations with my son that my father never had to have with me. Yeah. We had no idea what transgenderism was. Listen how far we've come as a nation. In order to get back to normal, whatever the hell that is anymore, normal, we have to get away from believing that men can have babies. We have to get away with their 197 genders. We have to get away that you can't remove your children's genitals and then they become magically a unicorn of the other sex. We can't have the LGBTQ flags flying inside our houses, God's houses of worship.
That's
and
right.
think that it's all going to be okay. That's how far, when people say, well, the pendulum will swing, really, it has to swing almost all the way to the other side to get us to normal.
Yeah.
Then you go back to what's happened on the border. We're losing our nation. And once we all die from it, and you said it perfectly, you think you'll be attacked from within. I do too, because no country can go toe to toe with America in a normal war, because at the best scenario is mutual destruction. Destruction. However, you can send in, and I'm being told anywhere from 50 to 120,000 PLA soldiers have been identified in America. And then at least 500,000 to 1 million terrorists or some level of terrorism are in our country. Plus millions of a single adult military-age men from across the globe, gang members, rapists, murderers, pedophiles, drug dealers, everything you can imagine are here in our country. Once they're activated, it's over. We had 9/11. What if I told you this is how it's going to play out? Because I've talked to military intel analysts and said, tell me scenarios. They said, well, you're looking at it the old way, like battalion and this brigade, and we're going to go in there and you're going to wear red coats, and I'm going to wear blue coats, and we're going to shoot each other. No. They say that they're going to be broken down into small groups, 7, 9, 10. You're going to have a sergeant. You're going to have 9 guys that follow. And those 10 people have no idea what the other 10 and the other 10 and the other 10 are doing. And you're going to have a specific mission. You're going to go to Mall of America in Minneapolis, and you're going to blow it up. Or you're going to go in there, you're going to shoot and kill as many people as you can. At the same time, I'm going to be in Kansas City, and I'm going to blow up a mall. And then I'm going to be over here at a stadium, and I'm going to kill as many people as I can. If that just happened, those 3 things happen within a span of a day and a half, 2 days, how fast does America shut down? How fast? Overnight. It's done. It's overnight. And I'm just talking about 3. I just told you there's 210,000 Chinese nationals. Nobody leaves China unless they're allowed to.
That's right.
You have Iranians that are flying to Venezuela, cleaning up, meaning shaving, learning Spanish, and giving documents, fake documents, passports, and they're coming. Why is that important? Why would Iranians go to Venezuela? Because we have a program that allows all the Venezuelans into America. People don't know that. It's called the CBP One app. You actually go on your iPhone and you pull up an app, CBP One app, and you get a reservation to walk through the port of entry, and they wave at you by.
What?
They do that yes, sir. You don't know that? They do that 1,500 times a day. 1,500 times a day. Now, and I want your audience to understand, fact check me. It's called the CBP One app. Okay, it's an app on your phone. The cartels have hijacked the app, and they control who goes through the ports of entry. 1,500 a day. I want your audience to also know that the federal government has had to admit twice that they have flown in a combined total of over 400,000 illegal aliens from foreign nations into America, into our regional airports, and allow them to disperse, and did not count them in their data. It was FOIA'd. However, my sources that have done deep dives on this say minimum our federal government has illegally flown into America 1.4 million of these people.
Wow.
So when I tell you that they've allowed in 12 million people, that's the tip of the iceberg, man. They are so nefarious. They are so malicious, and they are so traitorous and treasonous that I think America has no idea. Let me just tell you something else that's happened, okay? And no one knows this, and it's rarely talked about because they don't know the verbiage of how things go. If you want to sponsor a family member into America, the only 2 groups of people that can sponsor a legal immigrant into America are U.S. citizens and legal residents, okay?
That's right.
So the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, USCIS, is this powerhouse within DHS that takes care of all the green cards and all that. They came from Mayorkas, the direction of, we're going to take everyone that has deferred enforced departure, DACA recipients, temporary protective status, and anyone that's under the parole asylum system. So basically, tens of millions of people. They are without a doubt illegal aliens. There is no other term. This is the legal term within the Immigration Nationality Act. They are illegal.
Right.
USCIS has changed their designation and made them legal residents.
What?
So yes. So now there's this is the important part. There's a second component in order to sponsor. If I was like a guy from Guatemala, I would work the old days. I would work my butt off with my brother, and we would save money because I would have to go to the government and turn in a form called the I-134. It's a Declaration of Financial Support. Think about going to get a mortgage and explaining that here's my income. I won't default. Same thing with bringing my sister in. So my brother and I work our butts off to bring my sister in. And I have the document that says, here, they say, okay, you can bring her in. Well, how does all these illegal aliens that live in shelters and live in hotels across America, they have no money. How do they sponsor and show that form? Well, USCIS said, you don't have to do that anymore. We're going to allow the non-governmental organizations who are Catholic Charities, Lutheran Family Services, Jewish Family Services, United Way, and on and on and on. They will be your financial backstop. So now instead of me as a legal resident, now you've allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens to legally bring family members in. How many is that? It could be 5, 10, 15. This is a math problem. You are looking at 1 in 6 residents in America is illegal alien. 50 million. Let's say those 50 million brought in 4 family members. 4. That's 200 million people in America that are foreign nationals. Over half our population will be illegal aliens. And do you know when I bring in my mother and say she's 70 years old from Iran, never been in America, do you know what she gets? She gets Social Security. Do you know that she gets disability insurance? Do you know that she gets Medicare? Do you know that she gets Section 8 housing? She gets more than the person that has worked their whole life and poured into Social Security. We believe the average is a minimum $4,000 a month for them. Who do you know in Social Security world that gets $4,000 a month?
Nobody.
Who in Tennessee? Nobody. But you're going to tell me, okay, but this is the morality issue. I'm supposed to believe that I have to take care of every person in the world while I ignore my own people, my own brothers and sisters. That's what I'm supposed to believe? No. And why I'm so angry is because I'm so, and I believe I'm angry because I'm like most Christians. I want justice that I know I'm never going to get, right? I'm not going to get it in this world because evil has ruled for the beginning of time and it's going to continue to rule. But at least I'm not going to roll over and bend a knee and say, well, that's just the way it is. I'm going to call you out to my own detriment. I understand that. Yeah. But I'm going to call you out and I'm going to say, you are evil. And I'm not, because not only do I have to do that, because if I don't, I won't be able to sleep at night. But I got a young son that's looking at me and he's wondering, Dad, what are you going to do? I'm watching you, Dad. What are you doing? And he's never going to say to me, Dad, you had all this knowledge and this ability, and God gave you the ability to articulate these things on the drop of that, and you can pull out numbers, but you sat there and did nothing. Why? Wow. He's never going to say that to me. He's going to say, Dad, even if they squash you, I watched you fight the whole time, time. And that to me is priceless. That's my only driving force. That, and I just refuse to bow down to this insane world that I'm being forced to live in.
It's an invasion of epic proportion with the design to destroy the American way of life and the American ideology. And JJ, just hearing these statistics that you're giving me here, it really, really ticks me off. My wife's from the Philippines. It took us a year and a half to get her here legally. I had to present documents. I made fairly decent money, and then I had to go get somebody else to guarantee that if I couldn't do it, they would pick up where she left off.
There you go. And I'm telling you now, they've wiped that all clean. So illegal aliens get to bring in their family members at no cost. And so you ask, think of this. So somebody had to vet your wife. Like
Yep.
some consular officer, asylum officer, immigration person had to vet your wife 3 ways to Sunday.
Yep.
Right? That's why it took so long. Maybe we can argue about how long it takes to be cleaner, sooner, whatever. But my health and my safety is more important than expediting a foreign national into America. However, now we've gone to the point where I'm just going to allow 200 million people come into America. And then you ask yourself, just a simple logistical question. Who's going to vet them?
No one.
No one. And
Nobody.
that's the point. No one. Do you know that the 86,000 Afghans that we took when President Biden left Afghanistan and all our soldiers got killed and they left billions of dollars? Do you know that he brought in 86,000 Afghanis from that debacle? And do you know that they didn't interview one of them? One, they did not interview. Didn't interview anyone. Brought them on military bases. They caused over $150 million of damage in our military bases. They were ripping our walls apart, destroying the toilets and sinks. And then guess what we did?
Nothing.
We released them into America. Yeah, nothing.
Treasonous. It's all intentional.
Yes, and I want to come full circle because I want to keep asking this question to your audience. Why? If you can tell me a reason other than what I'm telling you, I have a very formulated idea and belief of what they're doing, and you don't like it, you believe all my statistics are true and accurate, which they are, but you don't like my conclusion that they hate America and they want to destroy America, then I want you to tell me what the hell's going on.
It's not.
You know what happens? No. And every time I sit here and I ask that question, guess what I get? Stone cold silence, because no one has an answer for me, because the answer is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
It's maddening. It's maddening what's happened to America.
How long, JJ, until the powder keg blows? I know we're coming up to a very controversial election that's going to try to be stolen or stopped. How long will till the powder keg blows, and how does it blow? What's that going to look like? I know you gave me a little bit of that a while ago, but what are your thoughts on that? How long do we have?
I do a lot of like critical thinking. Let's play this out, okay?
Yep.
And there's only 2 paths, right? There is Kamala Harris wins, and we all know it's fraud. We all know it's fraud. Or Donald Trump wins. I see both scenarios. There is massive blood spilled on the streets of America. Yep. There's no way around it. So let's walk down that line. Let's walk down that story. Kamala Harris wins. She gets 100 million votes. She can't put 2 sentences together. She is an imbecile on the highest level. So we will know without a shadow of a doubt that they stole another election. I don't believe America sits by, because America will crater. The stock market will crash. We'll go into a full depression. And then illegal aliens will not be fed, clothed, and sheltered. They will fight for what they want. And there will be blood on the streets. Donald Trump comes in office. I already know the man he's put in a position of power to eradicate illegal aliens from our nation. His name's Tom Homan. He is as passionate as I am, and he is brutal, meaning this is what needs to get done. Just do it.
Come on.
25 million of the 50 million will leave America. The other 25 million have been sent here to destroy us. They're not leaving. They have orders. We're going to have to find and eradicate them. There will be blood on the streets, and there will be law enforcement blood spilled, illegal aliens, and then the left will come out as a second flank against us. Their BLM, Antifa, and their media will attack us on all sides, and it will be a bloodbath. I do not see America coming out of this unstained with American blood. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I agree.
I pray it doesn't.
Yeah, that's what we hope for, but it's probably not going to be the reality of it. And I think the American people, they're over, last I heard, 80 million gun owners in America. And if those things are just sitting in a cabinet or your bedside or hanging over a mantle somewhere, they better get out and get to know how to use it. Yes. And I'm not promoting violence in any fashion, but I'm saying we better be ready for it and how to respond to it correctly. If we don't, our children, our wives, our parents, they'll die. And that's why the Second Amendment is so important. And we need to understand that's what they're trying to take away from us first, because if they can get our guns, they've got us. But if we can be in states like Tennessee or or Texas or other places around states that have a constitutional carry to where good people can carry guns. We know bad ones are going to have them anyway, but then we can be ready for a portion of this and maybe limit the loss of life. We're not going to be able to stop the loss of life, JJ, because what you're saying is very true. They're going to blow them all up here and simultaneously there. They're going to pull a plane down into a building here. They're going to do all of these things, but maybe there can be some good citizens that can stop this and nip it in the bud quicker than what we think we can. The gravity of them flying in intentionally. What was the number you gave me? I think
I would say it's 1.4, and I think it's closer to 2 million right now. 1.4 was in 2023. I'm not counting 2024. One air, and make sure you understand, I'm talking about one airline. It's called Swift Airline. One airline flying. They've tracked Swift Airline flying over 7,280 flights into the United States of America from foreign nations.
And Venezuela letting them bring the Muslims and the Arabs and the Chinese all through this aspect, and then flying in 86,000 Afghans, mostly all military-age men. That's a sign. I mean, we can't ignore that. We can't say, well, humanitarian. It's not humanitarian, and we got to get it right. But here's another ticker for me right here that pisses me off is the children. You said from 0 to
17
years old, human trafficking, using him, probably satanic ritual abuse, offering these things to demonic gods. I mean, I understand that aspect of it as well. Tell us what they're not. We know what they're doing, but how they're doing is we need to hear the depth of this thing, so maybe it'll wake somebody up.
Okay, so this is how it goes down. So they being parents in Central America and South America rent or sell their children to the smugglers. Because if you can cross the border with a man and you say, this is my daughter or my son, we don't even question it. They are a family unit and they can't be separated, meaning we're not going to deport the father. It doesn't matter if he's a felon. We just let him go. That's one aspect. The other aspect, these children come up with their brothers or sisters, literally babies, and they cross the border. The cartels allow them to cross. They pay a smuggling fee. They get into Border Patrol custody. We turn them over because we have a 72-hour rule. That's a whole nother story. 72 hours, we have to turn them over to an NGO. The NGO is paid by the federal government. They house these kids by the thousands because about 500 to 1,000 children cross the border every day, unaccompanied alien children. They put them in their facilities and then they farm them out to sponsors, unvetted people that there's no background check, there's no discussion. Do you know that when I talk to a sponsor, if I work for an NGO, do you know that I don't even do a Zoom call? I just do a phone call. And do you know when I go pick up the child from my escort? They're called escorts that fly children all over the United States of America. Do you know that I don't even need you to come get them? Meaning I'm the sponsor. I just send some other dude to pick them up. And then know what he has? He has a copy of my driver's license or a copy of my birth certificate. And then I just turn the kid over to you. I have no idea who I'm turning him over. Let me tell you, I could spend 3 hours minimum just telling you what I've discovered through my documentary. But let me tell you how big this is. Okay. So there's a young man. His name is Carlos Arellano. He is a whistleblower. He worked for 8 years inside child detention facilities and NGOs. He worked under President Trump. And I said, what's the difference between President Trump and President Biden? He said, well, under President Trump, I barely worked. I worked 2 to 3 days a month. He said, because there was no children. It was all a lie, kids in cages, all that crap. And he said, it was so highly regulated. Like there were steps and process to everything. So no kid got lost. We knew exactly who we're given to. He said, then you go into Biden. And he says, when Biden came to office, he said, I worked every single day of the month. He has a GED. He lives in McAllen, Texas, where the average annual income is $11,000 a year. Do you know how much he was making? He was making $6,000 to $7,000 a week. a
Wow.
week. And then I said, okay, Carlos, you have a GED. Where are all the masters and doctorates of child psychology, child welfare? No, there's none of those. I said, well, Carlos, there had to be hundreds of you escorts, hundreds. Where did you get them? He said, we would go down to McAllen employment centers and we would round up as many people as we could. And then we would train them for a day. And then they would be trafficking children all across the states of America. And he said, there are 400 child detention facilities strategically placed throughout the United States of America. And then I asked him, Carlos, tell me a story that would convince me that the federal government is a child sex trafficking organization. And he gave me about 100. But I'm going to tell you one that's powerful, and I'm going to tie it into another story, and it's going to make complete sense. He says, well, every couple of weeks, they would tell us, everyone show up to work around 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So there would be all of us. And then we would take 200 or 300 children out of the child detention facilities in middle of Texas, and we would drive all the way westbound to El Paso back to the border. And because we did that was because there was a private airstrip where they had 3 Lear jets lined up. And we would get in those Lear jets with our 300 children. And the pilots and the flight attendants were not allowed to talk to us, and we were forbidden to talk to them. And they would fly us in the middle of the night, in the dark of night, and we would land in airports, other private airports across the United States of America. And on the tarmacs were buses and vans and cars waiting for us. And we would take our children that were assigned to us, and then we would drive in the middle of the night to the early morning hours into upper scale neighborhoods. And I would deliver white kids to black people, black kids to Asian families, Asian kids to Hispanic people. And he says, what I was doing, I was trafficking children. I was sending a package to someone's house. Fast forward to another conversation I had with a gentleman that his name's Basil. He was a former CIA operative and special forces operator that runs a child rescue organization. And I asked him the same question. And Pastor, when I interview people, I don't tell them I'm interviewing other people. No one knows who I'm talking to. He has no idea about Carlos. And he says, well, I'll tell you this one story. Me and my team get a tip that 2 Lear jets are going to fly into Chattanooga, Tennessee in the middle of the night into an airfield that's private airstrip, and there's going to be 60 to 100 kids. And lo and behold, 2 airlines land in the middle of the night in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we watch them push out almost 100 children into buses and vans, and they disappear in the middle of the night. Now, you tell me what in God's name is going on when the normal protocol is to put them on public transportation, on Air Delta, Southwest, whatever, and fly them across this country. But you're doing in the dark of night and you're delivering them to people in the morning. That's called child trafficking.
That's
There's
right.
no way around it. And our federal government is the world's largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. How do I also know that? Because I interviewed 10 people, DHS, HHS, FBI whistleblowers, people that worked inside these child detention facilities. I talked to people that go hunt these children down and rescue them. They hunt the organizations and put them in jail. I talked to everyone. And you know what they all said to me? They all said, absolutely, the federal government is the world's largest child sex trafficking organization.
I've
Undeniable.
Yeah, that's horrible. It's wickedness to an unfathomable degree. Yeah, and this is one reason we need Donald Trump back in there to put these regulations back in place. And hopefully, there's no way to find these kids probably. And
No, they're gone. You
They're
have no
gone.
idea.
They're gone.
So listen, I talked to a lady, her name's Deborah White. We interviewed her for 2.5 hours. 3 days later, she goes in front of Congress, Senator Johnson and Senator Grassley, and does a 2-hour debrief in front of Congress. She was in charge and helped run the Pomona, California child detention facility. She saw 8,500 children go through there in 4 months. And she said, without a shadow of a doubt, JJ, every single child had severe trauma. either sexually or they watched murders or were conducted murders in front of them. And I said, well, where were all, I mean, you had child psychologists there, right? And you had all these medical health professionals there to help. No, we would interview them and then we'd push them out as fast as we could to people we had no idea who we gave them to. So they traffic kids into America, and then we turn them back over to the same groups of people, the same organizations that child sex trafficking. I want your audience to understand this is not even a disputed fact. This is understood through all left, right, center. All organizations know this to be the 100% true. 60 to 80% of every woman and child that crosses the Darien Gap and walks or traverses to Mexico, to our border, 60 to 80% are raped or sexually assaulted. All of them.
That's just
and then almost every child in our child detention facility has been raped. So I want you to understand, just through history, studies, endless studies, children that go through sexual trauma commit sexual trauma. So we have just brought in 500,000 ticking time bombs.
That's right.
And I've been told too that those children that are 17 and we release them, when they become 18, the cartels grab them and they become sponsors, and we just start sending children to them.
Start the cycle
all over. And if you think this isn't happening to you and your family and doesn't have any resemblance, and they're going to your schools. They're going to your schools. If they make it out of the dungeons, they're going to go to your schools.
Yeah.
You're affected. Look, I know you live in Tennessee, and I know you're like, I'm not affected by this. No. I know Tennessee is a hot spot for everyone crossing the border. You have right now, I would guess, hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens in your state.
Yeah.
And you're going to rue the day that you allowed it to happen. I'll give you an example. Springfield, Ohio. This just came out last week. Springfield, Ohio. I didn't even know Springfield, Ohio existed. They're about an hour and a half southwest of Dayton, Ohio. 58,000. In 4 to 5 years, they grew to 58,000. Why? Did they have just giant birth rate explosion? No. 20,000 Haitians, illegal alien Haitians, invaded their community. And it's over. It's done. The chief of police and the city council and the mayor are like, we can't do anything about it. And I say, yeah, you're not. Because there's thousands more coming. And then they're going to vote in their mayor, who's going to vote in and place their Haitian chief of police. You're going to have Haitians on the city council. It's over. You're done. But that is what's happening across America in every small town and city. The major cities are saturated. New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, LA, all that. They're saturated. They're busting at the seams with the illegal aliens. And I did this. I saw this on my documentary. I documented all this. It's all going to be in there.
There's and we try to stay in the know of what's happening here in the state of Tennessee, as well as the nation. But we've discovered that there are Russian camps throughout the state of Tennessee, parts of Kentucky, southern Kentucky, that are trafficking women and carrying them to different places to be sexually paid for, to work, that, as prostitutes, that type of thing. And there's some men we know that we have cigars with from time to time that's what they go in and get these women and they bring them out. But at the same time, a lot of these women return back because they've got them so brainwashed that they're going to kill their families back in the country they came from. They're going to kill children that they're related to them. And so it's not just bringing the children and the women out of sex trafficking, but it's eliminating those that are holding them and using them and selling them so that they can't do those things. Do you agree with me on that?
No, absolutely. They call it a victimless crime because they willfully want to do it. Really? How many women do you know that willfully want to sell their bodies? Come on. What child wants to sell their body 5, 10, 15, 20 times a day? Nobody. But this is the world we've lived in and are living in, where it is a moral decay. It's a moral rot. And we have so much that we want to or need to eradicate. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to understand that. Look, think about what we've spent money on. over $4 trillion on worthless wars in the Middle East. You've given $200 billion to Ukraine. You've given equal that to Israel. You have spent minimum, these are Joe Biden's numbers, minimum $700 billion cost for 4 years of illegal aliens, when the majority of us know that it's already eclipsed $1 trillion for illegal aliens. Now, you're telling me that all of our schools are good, all of our hospitals, airports, infrastructure, everything's great. We're actually in the black $32 trillion instead of being in the red $32 trillion. My dollar's not devalued. I just didn't see $1 trillion evaporate out of the market yesterday.
That's right.
This is all connected. All of this is connected, and it is connected to destroy America.
Yeah.
And again, I come back to the same question, Pastor. If you don't like what I'm saying, then tell me what the hell's going on. Prove to me that I'm off my rocker. Prove it. I want everyone to prove me wrong. I want to be wrong, but I know I'm not.
You're not. And I'm on that same page, and that there's a lot of people that are in the church that have a hard time believing that, because they think everybody's good and everybody has good intentions. But that's absolutely wrong. And I'm thankful for people like you, JJ, that are blowing this trumpet loud, man, and helping get the word out there, your documentaries. Do you have a moment to talk to us about the traitors in the government? Who are they on the highest levels? I know the answer, I think, but tell our people, if you can, about.
Well, let's start with the top. President Biden, he's a traitor. He's completely compromised. His family's made millions, tens of millions of dollars. Do you know his wife was on the board of Save the Children, an NGO in Guatemala, that Guatemalan's federal government has now sued Texas, saying that this NGO is the biggest child sex trafficking NGO inside Guatemala, and Joe Biden was on the board. Now let's look at Kamala Harris. She's gutless. She's making money. Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of DHS. I wrote a whole chapter in my book, Invaded, about him. He's from the communist nation of Cuba. We have a former Cuban nationalist communist running our largest law enforcement apparatus in the nation. You look at Christopher Wray, a boondoggle. You look at Miss Cheadle, the Secret Service director. Are you telling me that this was not an inside job to kill Donald Trump? Are you telling me that this was so grotesque negligence that's all it was just gross negligence? I'm going to be that stupid to believe that? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Who's over the Secret Service? Mayorkas is. So when you talk about traitors, and I understand, look, words have powerful meaning. That's why we use them. I know what the punishment for treason is. I know it's death. So right. I don't say that lightly. But I believe they all need to be arrested, tried for treason, and found guilty. Then they need to be hung from our state capitals and our nation capitals, so we all can see what happens when you become a traitor against the United States of America. Right. So yes, I say those people out loud and without hesitation are traitors.
I agree with you 100%, JJ. And it needs to be televised. It needs to be in public, and people need to understand the gravity of treason. Man, I could go on and on and on with you. If you'd be willing to come back sometime, I'd love to have you back.
Absolutely.
I want to say
absolutely.
Thank you.
And it looks like I'm going to have a screening in October for the second part of my documentary in Nashville. So I would love to let you know in advance. I will send you a copy of it so you can screen it and see. But I have my first documentary. Do you have a minute for me just to say
that was my next question to you was tell us what's going on, what you got in the pipeline, and how everybody can get a hold of you. And I encourage all of our listeners to get a hold of JJ and follow him with all of his information. Tell us how to do that, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm on X, JJ Carrell 14 on X, and then I have Amazon.com. You can purchase my book, Invaded. I'm proud of it because a very large publishing firm inside your state in Nashville, Tennessee, a conservative publication, censored my own book, and I had to get my legal rights back from it. But I turned it into a bestseller on Amazon, so I'm very proud of that. My partner Ryan Matt and I started, talk about just a chance. He saw me on a podcast like this and called me out of the blue and said, "This is who I am. I want to do a documentary on the border. I've been there for years, and I can't find anybody that can articulate the way you can. Will you partner with me?" We made a deal that night. And then probably 3 weeks later, we're on planes flying all over America, filming a documentary. And our goal was we're going to film one documentary. Obviously, you don't film multiple, right? That's insane. So we filmed one documentary, and then we said, as we're going through this, the evil of child sex trafficking permeated every single stop where we went. It was everywhere. Everywhere we talked to people, that's all they talked about. Interview people. You got this child sex trafficking. Oh my God, I can't get away with it. Can't get away from it. So Ryan and I said, let's do this documentary. And if God willing gives us enough success and money, we'll go and we'll start filming right away at child sex trafficking. That would take 9 months from right now, at least 9 months out to finance, travel, edit, all that. Ryan calls me out of the blue the other day. We talk every day, but called me out of the blue in the morning and said, we can't do this way. Everything has to change. And I'm like, oh my God, what? What has to change? This is going great. We cannot do one documentary and put child sex trafficking in there with the invasion. It's impossible. It's so big. It's so grotesque. We need to have 2 documentaries. And I said, well, okay, then where are we going to fly to? Who are we going to interview? He goes, no, you don't understand. We have, by grace of God, we have captured enough footage and film to prove exactly what you say, that the federal government is the world's largest child sex trafficking organization. We have everything, JJ. I've been through it all. We have 2 documentaries. And then we came to a moral understanding. We can't wait 9 months to put this out.
Yeah.
We have to put it out now. So he's editing nonstop every day, 18, 20 hours a day with his team. And on September 19th, our first documentary called Treason, Trafficked is all about child sex trafficking. 1 month later, on October 22nd, we're going to release Treason, Invaded, all about the invasion and who is the traitors in our country, all for $9.99. We're not gouging people. We thought, well, how can we give this for free? There was no logistical way to do it because the way our website's structured, that we just said, okay, we'll just put this out front. If you purchase this documentary on Invaded, you get this documentary Traffic for free. We also created a VIP for $14.99. And why this is, I think this is genius, not my idea. And none of this is my idea. I don't have that creative side. Ryan said, I want to take all of our interviews as we go through this documentary, and I want to post them fully edited 1-hour documentaries so people that pay $14.99 can literally walk with us on this journey all the way to the release of the documentary. So if you pay $14.99, you get 2 documentaries, and then you get almost 40 hours of behind the scenes and edited interviews that we did. Why I'm saying, can you please go to thisistreason.com? Thisistreason.com, because Ryan and I funded it all on our own because we knew Netflix, Amazon Prime, or anyone else that would have given us money, there would be strings attached, and we would not be able to tell the story that needs to be told, the truth.
Yeah.
So we did it on our own. We've already sold thousands of pre-orders, which I'm shocked about. And we're hoping that this goes viral because it's going to be a very powerful, in your face, but it's not going to be the old boring documentaries like you watch and you're like, do I power through this or do I watch this tomorrow? Right? No, I've already seen parts of what Ryan is doing. He's a master. He's an artist. He's created a story that I swear to you, when you get done watching that first documentary after 90 minutes, I swear to you, you will feel as if you forgot to exhale. Wow. You are going to be like, dear God, what did I just see? And here's the thing, and I'm going to warn you. If you watch it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And it's going to nag at your heart and your soul if you do nothing. Yep. That's my only warning to you, because you are going to be forced to get involved, or you're going to be complicit in your inaction. There is no in between.
That's right.
That's your warning before you watch it.
That's good. And that's what we want. That's what we want to happen to everybody. It's time the American people get involved and get activated in all this crap that's going on in our country. We got to see it. JJ, thanks, my friend. I really appreciate you being here. And again, everyone, all of his information is in the description. So go it, click it, buy it. I encourage you to get the $14 one. Do that. That'll help them produce more and be able to bring more information to us. Again, thanks, JJ. We pray God bless you, man, in your journey. and what he's called you to do to help expose this evil in our nation.
Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.